We're the travel agents coming to you with tips, tricks, interviews, and voyages by cruise. The travel agents bringing you the latest travel news.
So, Will, our travel agency survived COVID.
We made it.
And so you would think that here we are in the fall of 2022. You'd think that it was all fairy tales and just nice, easy, paved road ahead of us, right?
Yeah, that's definitely not the case.
I mean, hey, Will, travel's open. A lot of countries are relaxing their vaccine mandates, mask mandates. If you heard this week, cruise lines are going to drop theirs in early September. I mean, travel should be a piece of cake now, right?
Should be pre-COVID times, but no, not at all. Things are crazy.
Why am I somehow more stressed now than in the past 2 years?
Dude, it's gotten to the point where I book a flight for a client.
Yeah.
And I know right after I book it that the flight is not going to be the same. It's just not. And not only is it not going to be the same, it's going to change at least once every month.
I think I've had more schedule changes in the past 9 months than I have in the past 11 years.
Yeah. I mean, so if you're not aware, and if you haven't gone on a flight lately, a lot of the times you book a flight and probably within, like I said, a month, if not a day, the flight is going to be completely different.
Yes.
Quite literally, I booked a flight for a client and within an hour, I got a message from the tour operator saying that the flight had changed completely by like a few hours. I'm like, what the heck, dude?
It's really tough.
And so, I mean, can you explain a little bit, like, why do you think this is happening?
You know, there's a lot of theories. The crew doesn't show up. There's a pilot shortage. I mean, yeah, maybe it can be weather, but I mean, weather's not a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, everyone complains it's staff.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy, Will? This whole lack of staff thing, I thought it was a U.S. problem. I'm learning it's not. I'm learning it's a problem in Europe as well as Canada.
Wow, okay.
Other parts of the world. And it is really hurting the performance of travel as well as like our overall client experience.
Definitely.
And it makes us look bad.
It does, yeah. It makes us look, I don't want to say incompetent, but I've had people say like, why is this happening? Like we control like the airlines and stuff like that, but kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like, it's just a, you know, they're traveling all day, they're tired, and they're annoyed, and they should be annoyed because no one wants their flight to be canceled or delayed and losing a day of your trip.
And as a travel agency, we actually pick up our phones when people call. They're not going to be on hold for like hours and hours and hours, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what happens is we're getting more and more phone calls from people who are in airports. They're stuck. They're stranded. They're saying, help me. Mm-hmm. And sometimes our hands are tied. Like, well, I don't know. I'd love to charter a flight for you, but.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, of course, like with that kind of that demand for that help to get through these like hard periods of travel, on the bright side, it is actually increasing more demand for the need of a travel agent. I've seen a lot more people come to me particularly and say like, I've never used a travel agent before, but things are so crazy.
Right.
There's so many things to manage now.
Yes.
Completely aside from all the administrative stuff like flight cancellations and stuff, but like looking at COVID policies and vaccination and all that stuff, there's so many people who are flocking to travel agents because the need is, I don't want to say there for the first time, but it's definitely increased for the first time in like years.
I mean, some countries require an app you have to download, take a selfie on, take a picture of your passport and vaccine card, get a QR code. And if you don't do that, you get a fine and you have to do like a mandatory quarantine. We know how tough it was with like, for over a year, you had to get a COVID test to fly home back to the United States. Luckily, in June of 2022, that was dropped, which, oh my gosh, that was like, our whole office was like, we did like a standing ovation when we all got the news that rule was dropped. And it has just been kind of a nightmare of new policies, because as if travel alone wasn't difficult enough and making someone's trip work smoothly wasn't difficult enough, now like our work has increased sevenfold just because we're trying to figure out every country's COVID policies, which has been tough. Whether I will not be able to get words like PCR or antigen out of my head for the next 50 years, I think. It's been tough. And it's funny, we're talking about staff shortage, which I think is really a big reason a lot of these flights get canceled, because it doesn't seem to be lack of demand. Flights seem to be filling up.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Again, we're not taking like a political stance or anything like this, but this is cause and effect of laying off a lot of people from these airlines. You know, you're going to have that shortage,
right?
And then on top of that, I've heard reports of airlines poaching pilots, like same day flights, like the pilot's leaving to go on his JetBlue flight, and then American Airlines is calling and say, "Hey, we'll give you $30,000 more if you fly the flight for us tonight."
Wow.
And like, crazy stuff. And that's just an example, but really quite interesting stuff.
They're stealing each other's pilots. I've heard the same thing from my sources. But back to worker shortages, I have these clients do a luxury train ride across Canada, and they're telling me that they go into these fancy 5-star hotels that have 5-6 restaurants inside. And one restaurant is open to choose from. So the hotel's still full. It's not 1/6 full. It's full. But instead of 6 restaurants that everyone can eat at, there's one. And you're out in the middle of, like a location with not a lot of things around. You're a captive audience. You have to eat at that one restaurant, right?
Yeah. I was talking to a friend whose sister or maybe brother went down to I want to say Mexico, December 2021. And they're like, I don't know what was going on, but like 40% of the resort was open. A lot of the restaurants that we wanted to go to completely closed.
Right.
Some of the bars that we wanted to check out completely closed. Those like dance clubs and sort of events that usually go on in like the resorts and stuff closed. And so they were like, I don't know, like, is this a December thing? Is this a COVID thing?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not normal.
Yeah. Well, what's the excuse every time? It's COVID.
Yeah.
It's COVID. Starting to get real old, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I just some other ways travel has been difficult lately. And I do think it's getting better, but then you'll have a night where you're on the phone late with a client trying to help, and you're like, you know what? I don't think it's getting better. I think it's getting worse. We're seeing situations where a cruise finishes and people are going to the post-cruise hotel, and there's like 1 or 2 agents trying to check in a few hundred people. And so you end up standing in line at the hotel for 2 to 4 hours just to get your room key to go to your room.
That sounds like a
nightmare.
nightmare.
It's been really, really tough. And then I'm hearing stories. I have clients who, I have a client in Paris right now who was supposed to tour the catacombs. Last minute, their guide got COVID, and they don't have another guide to pull from because they're short with guides, right?
Wow.
So, okay, well, go see the catacombs on your own with no guide to explain what you're looking at, and just enjoy these random skulls on the wall. So this stuff is just getting really tough.
Yeah. I mean, what can, the common person, like, what can they do to, I guess, protect themselves on their trip?
I guess apply for jobs in tourism and you'll probably get it. Everyone's hiring.
Very true. Well,
like, the money's there, but
yeah, definitely.
I don't know. Well, it's tough. I think you need to actually, I'm really, I can't take credit for this. It was totally my client's idea, but I have some clients who are doing a river cruise. And actually, this doesn't have to do with COVID. For the first time, it doesn't have to do with COVID. But as you probably know, with the issue with the drought in Europe and what fires going on, I guess, too, that the water levels are low, and we're seeing river cruises getting canceled, or we're seeing river cruise lines do things like, we'll cruise you for the first 4 days, then the last 3 days will be a bus tour.
Yep.
That's not what we paid for, right?
Right.
Well, we'll give you a $200 credit towards a future cruise if for the inconvenience. Well, it's again not what we paid for. But actually, these clients came to me and said, "Brian, we'd like to have a plan B ready in case we get the notice from our river cruise company a couple days before the cruise. Hey, your cruise is canceled. We still want to go on a trip, but we'd like a plan B." So I think to answer your question, I think that's a smart idea in regards to what should happen if your flight gets canceled.
Yeah.
Well, are any other airlines flying to that destination? Do you understand the policies? Has your travel agent clearly communicated the policies of when you would be eligible to get all your money back if the airline changes or cancels by so many hours, or doesn't protect you on another flight or another carrier, right?
Right.
And so if you can understand all those options and what a good plan B is, then you're less likely to be frustrated. Also, the importance of going into your trip like an extra day early. We call that a travel day, just like a buffer day. So if you have this epic trip planned and awesome activities every day, that's great. But add an extra day onto the front of that. And you have nothing planned that day and literally leave it. Book yourself maybe even like a inexpensive hotel in your destination that night. We're talking like take the trip you want to have and make it an extra day.
Yeah, and that's strictly wholeheartedly just to protect yourselves, because if you have that situation where A, you don't have travel insurance,
right,
and then B, your flight gets canceled or delayed to a point where you're losing a whole travel day, you don't want to be caught holding the bag, so to speak, and losing out on that very expensive trip that you just paid for. So I feel like one of the best things that you can really do, and not to be like salesy or anything, is actually just really legitimately look at travel insurance.
Yes.
And I feel like travel insurance has never been more valuable as it is right now because of the uncertainty with airlines and the cancellations and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. We're seeing for clients traveling internationally, we're seeing between 95 and 97% purchasing travel insurance. So, it's like it's like a pitch you don't even have to make as a travel agent. And as a matter of fact, when I travel overseas, I buy it. When my father travels, he gets it. When our coworkers travel, they get it as well, because we know, this stuff covers you for quarantine. It covers you for travel delay, and baggage delay, and all this extra stuff, which we're seeing happen.
Yeah,
and we're finding ourselves filing claims for lots of clients at any given moment. I have 8 travel insurance claims active, being worked on, being reviewed. And they're taking forever because guess what? The travel insurance companies are short-staffed. Go figure. You know any place that's not short-staffed or looking to hire? I don't know. It's crazy.
The IRS.
There you go. I was like, I wonder if he's going to make an IRS joke. That was good. That was good. Just 2 more things I thought of, with just how awkward this is traveling, is masks and vaccine cards. So we're seeing the American airlines in the United States are not requiring masks, and many countries are not requiring vaccine cards or COVID tests to enter. Yet what we're seeing is you travel to just whatever country in Europe, and you don't need a test, you don't need a vaccine, you're fine, you just go right in. And then you go to a restaurant. One restaurant doesn't say a word to you. They seat you, they feed you, you have a great experience. And then the restaurant right across the street, they ask for your vaccine card. How are you supposed to tell do you need to be vaccinated or not? And then masks. You get on one train in Europe and no one's wearing a mask, no one says anything. You get on another train and the conductor comes around and makes everyone put on their mask. So it's really awkward to tell clients how they're going to experience their trip when you truly don't know which restaurant owner is going to require it, which train is going to require it. We don't know. So we're saying just bring it just in case. Yeah, and that's really all you can say.
Yeah.
And it's awkward, but everyone's experience is different. And I would just say take in a lot of data before your trip. Because if you read one review of one person's experience, I'm telling you, I can give you 10 other reviews that are different.
Yeah. Shoot, man.
Just go into travel with an open mind, a plan B, getting travel insurance, understanding what you're going to do when your flight is canceled and delayed, not if, when.
When.
And plan that extra night. It's totally worth it. I wouldn't make fun of anyone for going in an extra night early to their trip just to make sure they get there.
If anything, man, you get an extra night in Prague, or Paris or wherever you're going to be.
And it seems, Will, like these days, any given person you talk to has like 5 or 10 spare COVID test kits in their home. Throw a couple of those in your bag while you're at it.
Just, precaution. I think the theme of this episode is precaution.
Will, did you see those pictures in London Heathrow Airport with a sea of suitcases that hadn't been delivered?
Yeah.
I mean, it was nuts, right?
It was crazy.
No one's ever seen it.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Have you ever done a big trip? I'm not talking a 3-night getaway. I'm talking like a big trip. Have you ever done a big trip with just a carry-on?
Oh, wow.
I can actually say I don't
imagine that.
I don't think I've ever done it.
No, definitely not.
I was at a party and I heard from a guy. He said, like, you're a travel agent? You still travel with a checked bag? I was like, yeah.
No.
I have a lot of shoes I want to pack. He was like, dude, it's liberating to travel with a carry-on only. If your flight's canceled or a last-minute change, you don't have to worry about where your bag's going or not getting your bag. It stays with you the entire time.
Gotta use the Marie Kondo method. That's the key.
I was just in Puerto Rico a couple weeks ago for 5 nights. I was proud of myself. I did just a carry-on. Now, I will say I did not wake up that early, and I got to my flight much later than I wanted, and I was the last person to board. Okay, that's my problem. But why is it that they're like, okay, there's no overhead space left, so we're going to tag your bag? I thought that meant that when I get off the flight, not in Miami, that would have been, that I could see my bag right there.
Sure.
But at the gate, no, they sent it because I had a connection to Miami.
Yeah.
They sent it to Miami baggage claim. So I had to literally leave security, wait in Miami baggage claim, found my bag, then I had to go check in through TSA again. I feel like that was a glitch.
Not worth it.
Yeah, that was awful. So it's kind of like, wait a minute. If this is supposed to be so liberating, why is it that every time I get on a plane with a carry-on, I'm usually in boarding group 4. That's probably my problem. But they're always like, sir, we need to check that. And you're going to have to go to baggage claim anyway. It's like, well, that's not that liberating all of a sudden.
Oh, my gosh.
Anyways, ranting about travel. Hopefully, I don't want too many more segments on ranting. I would like it to get better. And
One and
fun.
done.
That would be great.
This is just a large tip episode.
But I'm telling you that the light at the end of the tunnel for traveling getting really easy again just seems like it's getting further away. American Airlines said it's going to take us 3 years to recoup after all those laying off of people. It's like, ugh.
It's good for business, I guess.
Anyways, any last rants before we end this session?
No, I think that's it, man.
We need help.
We're the travel agents, that's the end of our show. Make sure to